The Life of Death by Nightmare Darkness, Chapter 13, Relighting Hades. I looked at Spike, unsure really what to say, but if he could get the job done. A shout echoed, "Look out!" All of them looked just to see a ball of flame, lobbing cumbersomely fast at them. Lucifer's horn glowed, and the ball shattered on the field of magic energy. "You best go now. I don't have time to wait for you. The fire must burn again. Take Fire Pleaser with you as a guide." I looked at Discord, then Spike. "Let's go." I said, and Fire Pleaser walked beside me, giving me a curt smile. As the world enveloped in flame around us, we now stood in a barren area of a scorched earth, and stones made charcoal black from the intense heat. I followed Fire to a large plateau that overlooked a large basin, where what looked like boilers formed into rows upon rows. Spike knelt beside him with a worried look on his face. "You expect me to light all of them while fighting off enemies?" Spike said in disbelief. I shared his feeling of uncertainty. Fire Pleaser shook his armored head, not removing his eyes from the gates that were being guarded by a large contingent of warped souls. "There is a central burner you have to light. We light that and we'll jumpstart everything," he said, then added, "and get rid of all this infernal snow." He said scornfully, then turned his gaze to all of us. "Once we get in there and light it, we need to leave quickly. You and Discord won't stand the heat. Spike and I would be fine, but all the same, you don't want to be in there when it starts up. Plus, we can't teleport out. Only banishment can work in there. And trust me, you don't want to be banished to Tartarus," he explained. "Why can't we teleport?" Discord asked with a raised eyebrow. "It's a safety measure, make sure no opponent can get in quickly and sabotage and get out," he explained. I had a feeling of dread wash over me. Last thing I wanted to be was burnt to a crisp. "Great, now we need to get past the group down by the gate," I said as I looked down at the group. A pop sound ringing by my ear, and Discord was suddenly gone, and now he was in the middle of the group, acting as if it was normal before. They all turned on him and descended upon him like timberwolves attacking helpless prey. Discord pulled out a bubble wand and swiped it in all different directions as they attacked. In groups of 3, even 4 were getting trapped within the bubble prisons. We all galloped down to him, as he was just finishing capturing the last warp soul. "You never cease to amaze me," I said, and he smiled. "I'm the best at being awesome," he said, and made the bubble wand disappear. And in this place he made a hat, with a rainbow mane and a cyan blue color, and then placed it on his head. The decal on the front in sparkly letters said 20% cooler. I didn't get it, but then who would? And into the complex, the large cylinders towered above us, like large trees. Everything did have a peaceful feel about it. The snow had that effect on me. We walked for several moments before I became unsure. "Do you know where we're going, Fire?" I asked as we kept walking. Fire was quiet for a moment. "I'm pretty sure," he said, looking from left to right and back again. Spike looked at him with half-lidded eyes. "You can't be serious," he said, shaking his head. We walked for what seemed like hours, before we finally found a clearing that opened up to what looked like a large torch burner. Fire said, going into a trot towards an unlit torch. "Don't you think it's odd?" Discord said as he stopped, and I stopped. Looking at him, Spike took 3 more steps before stopping. "What?" Spike said. "Oh, it just seems this is all too easy. If this were a video game, this is where I would put a..." He said before a loud thunderclap of a sound cut him off, and a large mass slammed into the ground before Fire, sending him sprawling into a boiler and landing unconscious. "Boss." Discord finished and his ears drooped unhappily. Why did you have to say anything?" I said, frustrated. The dust began to clear as the dark mass stood up to its full height. It stepped out of the dust cloud to reveal a large horse-like body that transformed into a solid chest. A centaur as I recognized him. His horse body was brown as his upper body was red. His horns were long and sharp and his eyes cruel. "Kirak," was all Discord said. The name brought back a memory of a feared name from the beginning of Celestia Luna's reign. A centaur that stole almost all the powers of Equestria. It took his brother to defeat him last time, and well, we didn't have his brother. I wondered if he could steal my magic. "Discord," he said, slightly surprised, and finished with a smile. "Last I heard, you were encased in stone," he said, putting his hands on his hips. "Last I heard, you were locked away in Tartarus. How are you in Hades? You're not dead, you're immortal," Discord said accusingly. Kirak waved his hand as if waving off a bad memory. "I was given an opportunity to exact revenge on Celestia Luna, so I took it, and thousands of souls later, I'm bigger and badder than ever." He laughed and pointed at Discord. "You should have taken the offer he gave you." He said and looked at Discord, shocked. Discord knew who the enemy was and didn't say? "Are you two friends?" I said, livid. "Hardly. More like the same club of mischief. I'm president and he's like a lackey." Discord said unenthusiastically. It didn't sway my anger one bit. Enough of these pleasantries. Death, I've been expecting you. And well, there's no way to get that lizard near the torch. T-Rex said, turning his attention on me, making my insides feel like a gale force hurricane twisting inside myself. You can try to stop us, I said evenly. I swear, the cloak was the only thing that made me in control and threatening. Spike took another step forward. Lizard, Spike said in a low, aggressive tone. Discord hit his forehead and dragged his claw down his face. I looked at him, still angry. What? I asked, looking at him. He frowned and walked over to me. The only thing more prideful than Tarek himself is an adolescent dragon, he said, stopping beside me. My eyes widened and I turned around just in time to see Spike spring up in the air, swinging his fist and cracking Tarek in the jaw, making him take 2 steps back. My jaw dropped, and without missing a beat, Tarek returned the favor, sending Spike rocketing into a boiler, creating a large dent. I lowered my scythe, and Discord had taken up the guise of a character clad in black, with a cape and a chest plate that had several buttons. He had a sword made of red light.
T-Rex, I am not your father.
He then lifted his hand, and an invisible force slammed into Tarek, making him slide backward, making crevices of his hooves in the dirt. Spike stood up and shook his head, and a look of explosive rage overtook him as he reared his head back, and yelled a large spout of emerald green fire, and then dashed at T-Rex, slamming into him, rocketing him to his hind legs. My bone wings ripped out of my back as I thought of them, and I sped towards him with my scythe raised, yelling despite myself. I lashed out at T-Rex and sent him reeling. Spike landed and I landed next to him. Do you think? Spike said, breathing heavily as a small spout of green flame left his mouth. To answer him, an angry yellow and orange beam of energy slammed into me. The world went black for a moment, and I woke up looking at Firepleaser, who was holding me in his red magic cloak. You okay? He asked. Yeah, peachy, I said as he released me. Spike was engaged, trying his best to subdue T-Rex, as Discord was deflecting beams of energy with his red light sword. T-Rex, Fire said unhappily. Every pony seems to know him, I said, picking up my scythe. He is a well-known baddie, but the fact is that he's so strong means that he's absorbed souls, he guessed. He mentioned that, but how do we defeat him? I asked bitterly. You have to remove his power, Fire said simply. Beat the tar out of him then? I asked. We can try, but it'll be up to you to remove the souls, since your job is to relieve souls, he said as I looked at him. How exactly do I do that? I said, frustrated, and a beam of energy lanced towards me, and I placed my scythe in front of its path. It dissipated. Figure it out, after all, you're death, he said as he charged at T-Rex, and slammed his body into the centaur. I cursed, frustrated, and charged into the fray. We attacked and dodged, but before long, it felt like it was hopeless. T-Rex yelled out in anger, Enough! He spread his hands out, and a circular beam of energy pushed us away from him, and held us in place. I looked at my scythe, and it too was being held down. No! I said, struggling as T-Rex approached me. I looked up at him, afraid. Don't struggle, it just makes it hurt more, he said, smiling. On second thought, go ahead and struggle all you want, he said as the power holding me in place disappeared, and I felt weightless, and I was face to face with him. He opened his mouth, and I could feel my very fibers being ripped away from me. I wanted to cry out, but my screams were deafening. My screams became muffled as the darkness overtook me, and I could see a large light. And it took a moment to realize that that was all the souls T-Rex has taken. I reached out my hoof, and it was a small ball full of souls, angry and terrified. All their feeling rushed through me. I pulled the orb to my chest, and the world became light again as I looked at T-Rex, his face surprised and terrified. I could see myself in the reflection of his eyes. My black cloak was now white. My face was white and featureless, except for the 2 eyes that were even wider that stared at T-Rex. I opened my mouth, but it wasn't my voice. T-Rex, you have defiled us with evil. Prepare to be punished. I lifted up my arms, and the area behind me became engulfed with blinding light. As T-Rex screamed in surprise and horror, when it was all said and done, I landed softly on the ground, and the once mighty T-Rex was now a withered husk. My body was no longer the vessel for the soul's fury. As I blinked, I really wasn't sure what I'd done. Discord, Spike, and Fire all approached me, and Discord had reverted back to his normal self. That was cool. Discord said, smiling, giving me 2 thumbs up. I shook my head as I lifted up my scythe, and planted it into the ground. I lifted T-Rex up so I could see his eyes. They were full of utter crushing defeat. You belong in Tartarus, I said, and the dark ooze sprang from the ground, and enveloped as he screamed, getting pulled downward. Spike looked at me scared, but I shrugged it off. Let's relight the furnaces, I said. Spike seemed to remember why he was here. He looked up to the torch and jogged up to the top. I looked at it. Discord and Fire both stood on either side of me. Taking down Tirek, no small feat. Discord said with a sidelong glance. I had help. I said solemnly, and Discord simply smiled. Spike took a deep breath and let loose a green flame that ignited the torch. The ground began to rumble as the boilers came back to life. Time to go! Fire said quickly, and began running as Spike hopped down the stairs. And we all began running for the exit. The boiler jets of flame were massive as we passed them. Spike's green flames began to nip at our hooves, and my wings sprang from my back as I picked up Spike and began to beat my wings. His weight was cumbersome but not impossible. The gate that we entered was now in sight, and we all moved with a sense of urgency. We cleared the gates and not long after a loud explosion that knocked us to the ground. Looking back, we saw a large plume of steam. One of the boilers must have been badly damaged, Fire said. The snow was already beginning to melt. The fire gathered us to teleport back to Lucifer's side. Lucifer was smiling fiendishly as he watched his demons fight with renewed vigor. He looked at me and then at Spike. Thanks to both of you. We were driving the souls back to where they belong, he said, looking out over the battle again. What about the assistance you would provide? I reminded. His smile waned and he looked at me. You really know how to spoil a moment, don't you? But yes, of course I'll assist. Just give me a day to regroup, and I'll march to assist heaven, he promised as he waved his hoof. I have your word, Lucifer. Don't break it. I warned, but he simply smiled. I looked at Spike. We need to get you back home, but... I looked at Lucifer. What about his transformation? I inquired. Oh, that will wear off in a few hours. No need to worry, he said, waving his hoof nonchalantly. I turned towards the door and placed my key into the lock and turned it. Discord got ready to follow me. Spike looked woefully at his claws, hoping it would stay that way, but he knew it was going to end in a while. I opened the door and proceeded into the library of Twilight Sparkle. The door opened on the other side, and the musty smell of paper mixed with wood seemed inviting. Twilight sat at a table with her friends. She looked up and her eyes bulged as she looked at Spike. So Spike? She said, surprised, as well as dumbfounded. Radu stood up and approached him, eyes wide, taking him all in. Everypony seemed speechless. I looked at Discord, who looked tired, and just on the mood to heckle, which was a first. I made myself seen, and Everypony looked at me. I removed my hood, and Twilight's mouth opened, speechless for a moment. You're just a normal pony, she said, shocked. No, I'm far from normal, but that's not the point you need to hear. Spike was a great help. He's shown great courage and commitment. Thanks to him, Hades is back up and running again. He'll change back in a matter of time. I paused. It will be painful, so prepare yourselves. I looked up at Spike, who looked down at me. You're a good dragon, Spike. I finished putting my hood up and turning to leave. You sure you don't need my help again? He said, which put a smile on my face. No, I don't think so. But if I ever need a dragon, I know who to call. I said, closing the door and putting my key in it. Turning the lock to open up to Celestia's study, Discord waved at Fluttershy and closed the door behind me as he followed. Before I opened up the door to Celestia's study, I stopped. Why didn't you tell me? I asked, turning to him. About an offer made to me by a shady character? I don't know anything about him truly, but that's the only reason I decided to join you on this escapade, he said, putting his hands on his hips. I wanted to believe him, but a small part of me didn't. Okay, I'll take you on your word, I said and turned to open the door. Celestia sat behind her desk with her head in her hooves. I suddenly looked up at us. Her face was not one of beauty or poise, but of haggard and sleepless nights. You've been busy, stopping whole armies, relighting Hades? She sounded angry. Did I do something wrong? I asked defensively. She shook her head and sighed. No, it's just stress. You're doing amazingly well for just getting on the job. I feel so useless right now, she said, frustrated. Discord shook his head and snapped his fingers. A cup of tea and a slice of strawberry cake appeared beside her. She looked at it and sighed, taking the cup, lifting it to her lips. She perked up at the taste of the tea. Thank you, Discord, she said as she sat by the fire. These errands you have me doing is running me ragged, he said, flexing for a moment. A quiet and small comfort, and just as it came, it was shattered by a crack of lightning, and a white Pegasus looking battered and bruised, with scorched armor. Discord waved his claw, and she collapsed into a soft pillow. The gates of heaven have been breached, Angel Wing said breathlessly. The cup the Celestia held slipped from her magic and shattered on the floor. Heaven will be lost, she said, choking back tears. Okay, let's talk about this chapter a little bit here quick. So the furnaces reignited, they bring Spike back home, and they're a bit surprised, I would say, about it. First off, his size, and figuring out that Death is somebody they knew. I'm betting by some shocked looks or the fact that there's just a normal face behind the mask, I guess. Anyways, for further news, I'll go into further explanation in a different video. I've got a job. So what does this mean for my channel? It could mean a great many things. You just have to find out from the video I'll be posting up soon. So see ya.